Okay. I'll get us over into space news now. This is good. I don't mind this. Overclock the engines and get a good mock-up for how I want this thing set up. Rocket Guy would be good. As long as I design the pad interfacing for it and give the fuel farm on the pad enough to be able to fill this thing, I think we're good to go. That was a lot of work. It doesn't seem like we did a lot, but that was a lot of theory crafting out. That's stuff that you need to do. You need to do that if you want to do this realistically, right? I didn't mean to derail this whole thing. Yeah, it's time for space news anyway, dude. Don't worry about it. You're not derailing nothing. It's a good topic to talk about because everybody just seems to parade around the same opinion. And that opinion, NASA was a big jobs program. Well, honestly, anybody that says that I think is a little off their gourd, Eucnid. You know why? What's the Apollo program then? Is that not a jobs program? What's the difference? What's the difference between something like the Apollo program and something like the shuttle or SLS? The difference is the mission. The difference is getting things done. The mandate to do it. What is your rocket doing? Now, you could sit here and you could say that, Congress will just design the rocket, right? And then they'll design a rocket that goes to nowhere, like SLS, a rocket with no mission, like the space shuttle. They'll do it for sustainability, so the jobs program keeps going. Well, if you have a commercial space program to check your national space program, it doesn't matter what you build. Now, does it? SLS still exists, despite Starship, despite Falcon 9, am I right? But simultaneously, at the same time, dude, if you think about it, you guys got to think about the circumstances in which SLS exists. EJ's Space and Rocket Review. Okay, welcome to Space News. You got to think about the circumstances in which SLS exists. I agree that having Congress mandate design goals for your rocket is a very stupid idea. That's a really stupid idea. But, and SLS is that. SLS is needs to use the shuttle engines. It needs to use 5-segment stuff. It needs to use this. Congress did that, Eucnid. They did that to make sure that their supply chains for the space program were intact. And they did that to keep jobs in their congressional district. Last time I checked, that's what Congress should be doing. Keep getting more jobs at the federal level in their district to keep their constituents happy. I'm pretty sure that's the whole point. So that's my other problem with saying that NASA is a jobs program. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. That is literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, of course it's a jobs program. What the hell do you think it is? Duh. Now, I have a problem if they sit there and don't do anything all day, but you got to understand that SLS is mandated that way by design. Lori Garver probably talks about that in your book, how SLS is such a bad idea, blah, 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 blah. Not wholly realizing that she is the reason why SLS exists. The irony is unfounded, and this is the question that I always ask. Because I went down this rabbit hole a long time ago, and I've been reading about it for years. I've asked people in the space program, I've asked people at NASA, I've asked people at SpaceX, I've asked all kinds of people about this stuff. Eucnid, the thing is that Congress mandated SLS in 2011 when they figured out that Lori Garver and the executive branch wanted to cancel Constellation. They panicked. They panicked and implemented it to try and save as much of it as humanly possible because the executive branch circumvented checks and balances in our government to keep the space program going. What was done with the 2010 NASA Authorization Act is borderline unconstitutional. You literally pulled the rug out from NASA without telling them. They said, oh yeah, no, we'll keep Constellation. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, that's usually what happens when, you just knock on the Constellation program's door, a program that has full bipartisan congressional support, might I add, or did have that, and say, we don't want to do this anymore, use Elon Musk. They freaked the frick out and started mandating design into law. That's the whole funny thing to me. Yeah, guys, SLS is a bottleneck. It's kind of a compromised design. It's a compromised design because we sacked the Constellation program in the name of commercialization. It is a reactionary thing because they wanted to get rid of our national manned space program. You can go look this up. That is exactly what happened. Constellation had full congressional support, and some bonehead decided to play political football with NASA. And we ended up getting a compromised design because checks and balances were circumvented. Great. Good. How's that working for NASA? I mean, we got Artemis 1 on the pad, and that's good. That's all fine and dandy. Artemis 1 should launch sometime in August. Late August. 23rd through the 6th is the current launch window. But still, you have a rocket that can move 100 tons into low Earth orbit that moves a 25-ton Orion capsule and has no direct pathway to the surface of the moon, and basically can shoot Orion basically on a circumlunar trajectory back to Earth. Great, good, awesome, lovely. And maybe we'll go to the Gateway someday. You understand that compromised architecture was the result of what the executive branch did with NASA from 2008 to 2010, right? Just for argument's sakes, it is interesting when looking at the plan for Constellation. They plan for ISS transport to happen by 2015 and Moon by 2022. So far, we're 2 years off those marks with the current architecture, but that doesn't speak to other issues. Well, Rocket Guy, we're 2 years off those marks when we swept the rug out from the space program. Everybody says, oh, Constellation would have been too expensive. Constellation would have been too expensive and behind schedule, blah, blah, blah. Would it? Would it really have? I don't think so. I think it would have been a little bit behind schedule. What aerospace program isn't? See what I'm talking about? None of that doesn't make sense. And it's funny because, Lori Garver writes big books about how, oh, look at, I open up this door for commercialization, and she that's not wrong. She did that. I can speak to the positives of that. That was a good idea because this thing is a direct result of that. We basically got the space shuttle and the Saturn V on steroids in one launch vehicle. I can't say that was a stupid idea. However, my argument has always been, what's the cost of that? The cost of that is that we have no really good, healthy, robust national space program. Everything is just getting commercialized. Do you guys remember the Virgin Galactic launch? You remember how cringe that was? Is that what we want space to be from now on? Are corporations just going to take the reins when we decide to go to Mars? Do we want a corporation with the only viable pathway to the surface of the moon or Mars? Even if it is Elon, I love Elon. I don't think that sets a very good precedent for sustainability for long-term space travel. I really don't think that's a good idea. You think the government's going to allow Elon to go to Mars? By himself without their say in it? Does that sound right? Not very sustainable. That's why Jim was so important. He set a goal for SLS that's actually a thing, not just dreams. Bingo. I was talking about commercial landers. You don't have to worry about risk with commercial versus in-house. If your launch cadence is that low, you're not tying your program to it. Yeah, I guess, Balxy, but the point still stands. The better analogy would be AX-1. Yeah, do we want that? The AX-1 mission spent an extra week up at the ISS, Rocket Guy. Who's paying for that? Who paid for that additional ISS accommodation and operation? Did Axiom pay for it? I don't think so. See what I'm talking about? Look, guys, I'm not saying that I have a problem with SpaceX. I love SpaceX. I'm a big SpaceX fanboy. What I'm saying is that we need something like Constellation, and we need something like what Elon's doing. We need to be firing on all cylinders. NASA needs to be healthy and robust and have a very good in-house space program that is at least comparable to SpaceX. Now, before people say, well, that's just not possible with NASA. Well, the Apollo program exists. It is possible. It's possible to do it. And that starts with leadership. It starts with a good goal for our national space program. Something like the Apollo program. And Balxy, that's right. That's why I like Jim so much, because he set that damn goal, even if you think his boss is a wacko or not. Or his boss was a wacko or not. It set the goal. It was a good idea. That was the right move. And then they immediately rescinded it because, Herder, I don't like the previous guy and what he did. Yeah, they did that, and that's exactly what happened with Constellation. Oh, we don't like what you're doing. We want to blaze our own trail. Axiom did pay. Well, that's good. That's good that they did. That's good that they paid for the additional on-orbit time. I applaud and appreciate that. Sadly, to be fair, NASA doesn't have Elon Musk funding. The difference is Apollo and Shuttle accomplished something in 10 years. Well, they had this. The Shuttle is arguable that it didn't really have a goal. It had goals, and then they decided they didn't want to do it, and then they decided they were going to do the goals later. And that ended up with 30 years of getting some of that stuff done. The difference is that Melee is that with Apollo's a good example. Gemini before it and Mercury before that. They had very clear set goals, but there was no regulation on how those goals were supposed to be achieved. That's the problem with SLS. SLS doesn't have a mission. It has goals it has engineering mandates that were implemented by Congress. Engineering mandates for design, not mission. Big difference. And that is directly a result of the 2010 Transitional Authorization Act, that thing that Lori Garver likes to talk about, how, commercialization is the future, in-house space programs are bad, blah, 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 blah. That's what's touted as the game changer, blah, blah. And don't get me wrong, like I said, SpaceX has done incredible things by being championed like that. However, those things probably would have ended up happening anyway, because all they did was take parts of the Constellation program that they liked, the commercial orbital transport services part, which would have eventually led to commercial crew, and just say, yeah, we're going to use these instead. They took parts of Constellation and said that the parts of Constellation that they like are going to replace the parts that they don't like, and completely got rid of it without telling Congress, I might add. So, I mean, you could sit here and say, like, oh, you could sit here and I'd honestly be curious to see what Lori Garver says in her book. But everything I've heard her say about, spaceflight policy and stuff has literally either been something that was already there that she championed, didn't come up with, or she says, oh, well, stuff like SLS is the reason why I do what I do. Yeah, SLS exists because of you. Because of what you did as deputy administrator, circumventing checks and balances. Yeah, it exists because of you. The irony is unfounded to me. I think it's hilarious. And before you say, EJ, you might be over-exaggerating. It got to the point where there were people at NASA that straight up refused to work with Lori Garver. You can go look this up if you want. It's all out there. Charlie Bolden even said, look, I'm not your boss, you're my boss. Stop going over my head. She went right over the NASA administrator's head, right to the executive branch. Oh boy, more circumventing the process, because that ends well with rocket science, doesn't it? See what I mean, man? Don't get me wrong, commercialization and what SpaceX is doing and the healthy commercial market is great. I'm all for that. I'm all fine and dandy with it. Everything there is right, and I agree in that regard with commercialization of space, especially with low Earth orbit. It's going to completely change the way we launch stuff into space, and it has already. But it has at the cost of setting NASA back multiple decades. I don't know, time will tell if that's a trade that was worth it. Because up until this point, I'm not sure if it was worth it. We'll find out. Do you think SLS has a goal now, i.e. Artemis? It's a good enough goal. It needs a bigger upper stage. Short line, I firmly believe as an armchair rocket scientist that NASA should have their own in-house way that leads them directly to the surface of the moon. I do not think that NASA should be beholden to a commercial customer to launch things to the surface of the moon, of their moon base. I don't think that's a good idea. And if we are going to do that, redundant dissimilar architecture, which is what they're doing right now, is still a good idea. But what happens if, even then, you can say that commercial dissimilar architecture is a good idea. How many spacecraft fly people to the space station right now? Is that really a good idea? Would it be better if Ares 1 was flying right now? Yeah, that would be way more sustainable. It would be more expensive. I'm not going to say that it wouldn't. It would be way more expensive. Oh, absolutely. Would that be more sustainable? Because remember, the question here is sustainability. If only corporations are launching things into space, it's going to get to the point where commercial capability in commercial space programs and corporate space programs will supersede NASA's capability in space. It's already happening with being able to launch people to the space station. How is that sustainable? That's not sustainable at all. It's just going to give people an excuse to give NASA less money over time, which is already what that's basically what happened by canceling Constellation. There are repercussive effects here from doing this, and those should be studied and they should be well understood. Because we had a really nice, healthy national space program with a reusable space vehicle, and we went backwards. NASA's capability has trended downwards over the past 50 years. We went from being able to get to the surface of the moon to nothing. Literally nothing. NASA had more capability 60 years ago than they do now. And I know what people are going to say. Oh, well, it's expensive, EJ. Yeah, of course. Spaceflight is always going to be expensive. Duh. When you're pushing the envelope in space, it's not like it's some easy thing to do. It's always going to be expensive. Look at how many billions of dollars Elon is putting into developing that thing. It's always going to be expensive. There's no getting around it. Doesn't matter if the vehicle's expendable, fully reusable, goes to the moon, goes to Mars. It doesn't matter. It's always going to be expensive to develop. Now, what you do with it after that is much more important. You're always going to spend multi-billion dollars developing a launch vehicle. The price will come down over time if you launch that launch vehicle more, and that comes from a more sustainable architecture. It really depends on what you're doing. Considering Delta IV Heavy could launch Orion, was there a reason other than funding that they didn't pursue the plan of testing Orion by using it to launch the ISS? Delta IV Heavy is not human-rated. How am I supposed to fix problems if I don't make them first? Yeah, sounds like the government to me. Hitting the 2-year limit would be a good start. Yeah. Could with SLS-1B fit a lander in the fairing? It's possible, Ryan. Yeah, possible. I agree, but I do think RDA does negate the effects of commercialization. RDA. Refresh my memory. Also, the US won't have that gap about a Rule 8 risk with crew capacity. Yeah, interesting, Boxy. Yeah. Well, China's the next space superpower anyway. Artsy, I would very much disagree with that. China's good, don't get me wrong. They're good at what they do. I don't think they are on par with us. But, then again, their space program can launch people into low Earth orbit, can't they? I get the romance of NASA in the 60s, but it's a different political climate now, and I don't think they care. The government, not NASA. I don't give a frick if they don't care. As a taxpayer, I want NASA going further into space. I really don't give a crap if they don't care. That's not my problem. They serve us, not vice versa. Don't get confused. Oh, I agree, but I do think that redundant dissimilar architecture does negate the effects of total commercialization. Oh, yeah? How many people have launched on Starliner Shortline? NASA has taken people off of Starliner because it's taking so long and put astronauts on Dragon because Dragon flies more. Redundant dissimilar architecture is a good way to go. But what happens when one commercial customer drives another commercial customer out of the market because of how pitting corporation against corporation works? You have the competition inherent to capitalism there going on. Do we really want that? We're going to end up as Ferengi in space. That's not a good idea. That's not sustainable at all, because it'll always end in monopoly every time. So the solution there is that you either prop up an older spacecraft with government cash, and now NASA's still beholden to a corporation that is not competitive, or NASA develops their own in-house vehicle, which serves as a datum for competition. Which one of those sounds better to you? See what I mean? Redundant dissimilar architecture, it does work for the time being. What happens when SpaceX corners the market on launching people into space? Does NASA just keep giving Starliner and other crew vehicles money to artificially facilitate this competition? There was a whole argument about this with launch vehicles between ULA and SpaceX for the longest time. We are Ferengi. Yeah, I know, right? What's wrong with Ferengi? Do you not want to make a deal? I'm saying that's not very sustainable for spaceflight. And I think the National Space Program will pass NASA in the future because their economy is growing so rapidly, money talks. All the better reason why NASA should be competitive. Guys, once again, I'm not a SpaceX hater by any means. I love SpaceX. I love what they do. They should, by no means should they stop just to wait for NASA. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. What I'm saying is that it'll be more sustainable in the long run if we have a healthy in-house government space program that's redundant to SpaceX. I think that would be more sustainable than redundant dissimilar architecture. That also inadvertently will give us more astronauts and more trained astronauts for in-house space programs that could end up finding their way into the commercial market for flying commercial space vehicles around. For instance, if we always have an ever-expanding astronaut corps because NASA's doing more and more things, pushing the envelope in space, moon bases, Mars bases, asteroid belt mining, blah, 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 you have a lot more astronauts out there that can pilot spacecraft. Just like the military, a lot of pilots that serve in the military end up flying commercial airliners around. Same exact idea. That overall can, as a long-term thing, can bring the price of operating a spacecraft in space way down. And if I'm remembering correctly, that's pretty much what happened with private pilot's license after World War II. Everyone could fly after World War II. Because thousands, hundreds of thousands of pilots were trained, and that made flying way more affordable. It also made it way safer. See what I mean, man? This is not a good idea, putting all of our eggs in one basket like that. Not having a healthy and robust redundant space program to the corporate space programs that are going on right now. That's not a good idea. It's really not, like, people always talk about sustainability, blah, blah, blah. That's not sustainable. I meant China, but I 100% agree with you. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, Artsy. And I understand, and NASA should be competitive, but NASA should be doing everything that the Chinese space program is doing. They should have their own in-house spacecraft. Now, the interesting thing about that is that commercial versus commercial I don't think is sustainable because there's a logical end and only the government can facilitate that, can prop up that market. What are we going to do? Enforce antitrust in space? That's not going to end well. No, SpaceX, you have to make Dragon a separate company. Yeah, nobody has the balls to do that. Let's be real. So what are we going to do? Enforce antitrust in space? That's dumb. Redundant dissimilar architecture and competitions between corporations for spaceflight is not sustainable. I don't care what anybody says. It's not. It is a short-term goal. It's taken 3 steps forward now, so we can take 4 steps back later. Simultaneously, Artsy, government-to-government space program is not a good idea because what happens when someone wins the space race? I can point to a very specific point in history where a government versus government competition in terms of spaceflight capability ended because one person couldn't keep up. What's the check to that? The check to that is a corporate space program because that can keep up. Just like what you're seeing right now with that thing. Just food for thought, guys. Like, I put a good deal of thought into this. I don't think that this incessant need to commercialize everything at NASA is going to end well. It's not going to. Like, I'll tell you that right now. It's not going to. I appreciate the deep dive, by the way. It's clear I've got more reading to do. Well, Eucnus, I shouldn't presume. I really shouldn't. But I'm going to go ahead and guess. In Lori Garver's book, she says that big defense contractors are funneling cash into their congressional district and nothing gets done, blah, 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 jobs program, my way of doing it is better. I'm going to go ahead and guess that that's what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and guess that that's what's going on in the book, and she says how SLS is such a bad idea. This is a prime example of why I did what I did. But once again, what's not mentioned is that SLS is you're the reason why. She's the reason why SLS exists. Literally, no one singular person can be more responsible for that launch vehicle other than her. It's true. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not trying to be a jerk. It's true. Interesting thing to ponder, isn't it? Have you been following the small modular reactor design in the U.S. lately and what is currently being pushed by the U.S. government, which was prior to the war? No, I haven't got nukes, but that sounds cool. I do not say blah, 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 blah. Regardless of the history, SLS still has the burden of being 5+ years late in mismanagement. Yeah, I know. There was one guy that tried to fix that, Melee. And then, his boss didn't get reelected, so he left. Yeah. And now we just... I mean, don't get me wrong. Bill is doing an okay job. I don't really mind it. I don't like how he called... I don't like how he called a bold goal that was set by NASA by the previous administration not feasible. That's hilarious to me. I think that's really stupid. Can you imagine, in this day and age, the guy that runs NASA says, you know, going to the moon in this amount of time is not feasible. It's not tenable. We can't do that. The guy that runs NASA, the guy that is designed to favor ambition, to get bold goals done. We do it because it's not because it's easy, but because it is hard. Imagine the person that runs NASA saying, "Oh, that's too hard. No, we can't do that." All right. Yeah. Great. Because blaming people and saying stuff is impossible is what NASA does, am I right? Hey, how's that commercial spacesuit contract going? Oh, wait. That's going to be way behind schedule, too. That's funny. See what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to piss people off. I'm not trying to be a jerk. Like, but there were very, very long-standing repercussions of those decisions that were made 12 years ago. And we're going to be paying the price for it for a long time. And every time somebody tries to fix it, it's just used as... it's just used as fodder for somebody to say that SLS is a stupid thing. SLS is stupid. SLS is stupid. Is it, though? It's not. But we're so far into that program that we just kind of got to keep running the course. It basically paralyzed NASA. Yeah. Great. When your second tower costs $1.5 billion, I believe them. Once again, a product of the SLS program, mandating design. When you mandate design and you say that you have to do this and you have to do this and you have to do this instead of mandating the mission, you have to use this for this rocket. You have to use this instead of you have to go to the moon. You have to pioneer reusable space flight. When you mandate design changes at the legal level instead of mandating missions at the legal level, where's the accountability? Someone can just jack the price on the contract because there's no accountability. There's no hey, all you said is I needed to use shuttle engines in the core stage. You didn't say how much it needed to cost. What's stopping contractors from wringing NASA dry? Which is exactly what's going on. Funny how that works. Even SpaceX. SpaceX has upped the price of Falcon 9. Launching people into space, Falcon 9 with Dragon, does not cost $40 million. It costs $150. You can go look at the commercial crew program contracts, those firm fixed price contracts that just happen to change. It's almost like this is way more complicated than just, oh, let's use all commercial or let's use all government. This is a complicated thing, you know? It's not as simple as just, oh, launch everything on Falcon 9 or launch everything on Starship. It's not as simple as that, you know? Did you see the Starlink Maritime release? Here, let's cover more space news. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation there. Yeah, I don't mind going on deep dives like this every once in a while. It's important to spread this information out there because I think, you know, especially if you're a U.S. taxpayer, you should know that NASA is being swindled and your money is being funneled into basically useless projects like a $1.5 billion mobile launcher. And that isn't the fault of NASA. That isn't even the fault of Congress. That's the result of the 2010 Authorization Act. The one that, you know, put commercial on the map. That is a direct result of that. It can trace its roots directly to it, and the roots of that can be traced directly to one person. Once again, I'm not trying to be mean. I believe in accountability. There were a lot of good things that came out of the 2010 Authorization Act, like how big SpaceX has gotten. That's a really good example. But also there were some bad things, and those bad things should not be ignored. This is something that I've learned, especially with spaceflight. You don't ignore the bad things just because you don't like hearing them. I don't want to hear that the O-rings on the SRBs aren't working in cold temperatures. I don't want to hear that. I want to launch the launch. Oh, it blew up. Oops. That's not a good thing to do with spaceflight. There are always repercussions. There are always effects. There are always ripples. And the decisions made in 2010 left a tidal wave of freaking ripples in our National Space Program, and NASA's still reeling from those decisions that were made 12 years ago, and they will be for a very long time, well into the 2030s, before any of this, even if somebody decides that we want to fix every single problem with SLS, give it a dedicated mission, dedicated goals, and basically a blank check. That'll still take years. It'll take 10 years to fix it. Easily. Did you see the Starlink? Yeah, okay. Starlink Maritime release. When you say they have to use shuttle engines, those shuttle engines are going to get expensive very quick. Bingo. Total Staples, it's almost like you know how government procurement works. And then it's funny because people have the gall to blame the contractors. Man, does that piss me off. You have to use this engine, NASA. Okay. Aerojet, the government, Uncle Sam said we need to use shuttle engines on SLS. How much is this going to cost? Oh, you need to use them. Yeah, we have to use them. How much did they cost during the shuttle program? Oh, they were $50 million during the shuttle program per motor. Okay, so if I want to just take those engines and put them on the same launch vehicle, you know, how much is it going to cost now? You need to make more engines. And I'm the only one that can make these engines? Oh, yeah. How much are they going to cost? Oh, yeah, they're going to be $100 million this time around. Yep, 100 million, 150. When do you need these engines by? We might need them 10 years down the road. Oh, yeah, 200 million. You guys could sit here and say that's not how that works, but you know good and well that that's how that works. Corporation is designed to make money. Nothing more. No goal, despite all the corporations out there that say how good a person they are. Oh, look at us as a corporation believe in blah. No, you're there to make money. Don't get confused. Oh, inflation, 250 million. See what I mean? How much money have we spent on stupid stuff like that because of the decision to commercialize everything? That's going to cost us billions of dollars, dude. It already has. And because it's cost us billions of dollars, I think an argument could be made here that instead of spending those billions of dollars on waste, like a $1.5 billion mobile launcher, like people in chat are saying, A $1.5 billion mobile launcher. We could have just funded Constellation and had a good plan and had that supplementary to our commercial program. But no, we can't do that. It's too expensive. But we ended up with something that ended up being pretty much the exact same price to do literally nothing. Nothing thus far, I should say. I don't know. Yeah, Eucnus, that's kind of... I'm not going to sit here and say that that's not a little bit of a sore spot with me. I'd be interested to go read that book, but I guarantee you I already know what it says, and it's just going to annoy me. Yeah, Strunken. Yeah. Yeah, no. They're good people, right? Am I right? Reminder that inflation plus COVID is just a way to jack the prices of everything. The supply chain was reinstated months after the lockdowns. Yeah, they also blamed COVID for delaying the Artemis program as well, Galaxy. Oh, great. Blaming people. It's very interesting to me. Yeah, either way, Eucnus, I hope that kind of sheds some light onto the dissenting opinion, the stuff that people don't really talk about too much because everyone is all super SpaceX fanboys. And don't get me wrong, I am too. SpaceX should not let their foot off the gas. It's not their fault that they gutted NASA at their behest. Like, that's not their problem. That's not Elon's problem. All engines ahead flank, buddy. Let's go. Let's get Starship into space. All right. Every time SLS comes up, the talk is always about how it came to be, not its shortcomings. Okay, do you want a technical list of reasons why it's annoying? The shuttle engines are expensive. You should use RS-68s. It should be unmanned. It needs a better upper stage, and NASA should have redundant in-house low Earth orbit access with a vehicle like Ares 1, which circumvents the needs to human rate a super heavy launch vehicle, which is absurdly expensive, might I add, and makes the overall architecture a lot easier to have more flexibility in space, to be able to set the goal for the moon easier, because you have more capability, you have a better upper stage, you have uncrewed super heavy launch capabilities, so you can launch gigantic transfer vehicles into space and then send people up on the smaller launch vehicles, saving more money. And it turns out if your small launch vehicle like Ares 1 uses similar parts to Ares 5, you don't need as many supply chains to operate both vehicles. I.e., Ares 1's second stage engine is the same second stage engine as Ares 5. Interesting how that works. And the boosters are used on both designs. And if they're both using the VAB, and they're both using mobile launchers, and they're both using Complex 39, you have multiple pads, multiple mobile launchers, and multiple high bays that were built, that we spent billions of dollars building in the 60s and put all those to use. Anything else, Melee? Look, you're missing the point entirely. You never talk about SLS's shortcomings. SLS being mandated by congressional design is the shortcoming, because it has no mission. It just said build a rocket, we'll figure it out later. That's every time we've done that, it's basically ended extremely poor. The shuttle is a good example. I mean, dude, I have 1,000 problems with SLS. Oh yeah, tons. But it exists, so we might as well use it. Just gotta upgrade it from now on. Needs a better upper stage, should be unmanned. Orion should launch on Ares 1. You already have the boosters developed, you just gotta develop the second stage for it. We should just go back to doing that. There, I said it. People are gonna hate me for saying that, but I don't care. Because this is more sustainable. Here, speaking of that, wet dress rehearsal footage. SLS under current plans has zero economies of scale, which shoots up the price. So there's zero accountability, there's zero mission for it, and there's zero sustainability. It's going to end up being more expensive than Constellation, dude. Yeah, so how good of an idea was getting rid of Constellation? Not a good one. But also, I do like this. This is pretty neat. SpaceX launched DM2 in the middle of a lockdown. Yeah, funny how that works. No, you're more sustainable. Am I, though? Check that out. We got footage from the wet dress rehearsal. It'd be really cool if this was live streamed. Cool. It's the vent lines for the gimbal actuators, fellas. Oh, that's so damn cool, dude. Look at that, man. We can't not use this thing. We just got to give this thing a freaking mission. Give it something to do. Give it a better upper stage. This thing is great. It's an awesome launch vehicle. Damn. And how far away from SLS being more bad than good? Just needs a better upper stage, Melee. It just needs a better upper stage. That's it. I'm happy with everything on the screen, despite the damn shuttle motors. It really should be RS-68s, and the thing should be unmanned, and Ares 1 should exist. But, hey, we'll make do. We want to do this way. That's fine. This way works. It's good enough. There's a viable pathway to do everything that I said, of giving NASA a direct path down to the surface of the moon in-house without a commercial contractor. These two boosters and that core stage give us a viable pathway to it. That's like 90% of the way there. Just got to upgrade the upper stage and whatnot. Also, this footage is BAMF! I really like it. It's really cool. So, once again, this is footage of thrust vector control actuation from the wet dress rehearsal. Pretty cool, huh? Oh, that's so sick. 3, 2, 1, go! Are all the shuttle engines being used new engines? SLS is going to use all the existing shuttle engines that were in the fleet left over from the retirement of the shuttle program tech. And then Aerojet Rocketdyne is going to make new engines. Those new engines are called the RS-25E. They restarted the RS-25 assembly line for an exorbitant price. Might I add. Should have just used RS-68s, man. Can't do that, though. Got to put people on it because the Ares 1 doesn't exist. Hey, circular conversation. I'm going to stop. I just want to watch this. SpaceX's rockets look cooler? I mean, I guess. So there are 9 RS-25s that previously went into space that are going into the ocean. Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. Annoying, isn't it? Yeah, these engines have flown multiple times. One of these engines was an engine that moved John Glenn into space on STS-95. Yeah, Block 2 SSMEs. Yep. Hi, can you play Beam later? If I'm not tired, Medin, maybe. Yep, let's just take the legacy of the shuttle program and throw it into the ocean. It's annoying, isn't it? But hey, I guess for boots on the ground on the moon, I'll trade it. I guess. Well, to be fair, they threw the Saturn V in the ocean. The point still stands. For boots on the ground on the moon, that's fine, if we want to do that. There's RS-25s in museums already, though. I guess, but not every one of those RS-25s move John Glenn into space. Just food for thought, I suppose. Is Beam fun with a controller? Yeah, sure. Did we talk Starlink yet? I just wanted to give my 2 cents for input. Starlink seems to be the word of the day here. Let's see what we got. Starlink for boats. Starlink Maritime allows you to connect from some of the most remote waters in the world. Oh, that's cool. And speaking of Starlink for boats, SpaceX tweeted this. In addition to withstanding extreme cold, heat, hail, sleet, heavy rain, and gale force winds, Starlink is rugged enough to withstand rocket landings. Here's live video captured on a SpaceX drone ship at sea with and without Starlink. I'm going to go over this side so you guys can see the high def stuff, not the pixel footage. Jeez, the freaking quality difference is unbelievable. Wow. To highlight how big of a disruptor... Hang on. To highlight how big of a disruptor this will be for the industry when it comes to aircraft they are actively testing, my monthly bill for corporate jets is almost... My monthly bill for internet on corporate jets is $45,000? I don't usually, like, curse on stream. I really don't do that, except if it's late at night. But also, that's fucking crazy. Unbelievable. What a scam, right? No. That's a scam! Starlink's sweet, dude. Oh, that's so freaking cool. Man, I'll tell you, Acton, I was flying on American I was flying on American Airlines on the way back from New Mexico, and they were using Viasat for internet, which is hilarious because you had to pay for it, right? Plane tickets being the price that they are, you got to pay for the freaking internet. You got to pay $20 for 4 hours of internet on the flight. And guess what? The internet sucked. It was Viasat. You suck. It was terrible. It was absolutely garbage. I couldn't watch, dude. I couldn't do anything on the internet because the bonehead next to me was watching Stranger Things in high def and sucking up all the bandwidth. And I hadn't watched, or no, wait, I did finish Stranger Things. So yeah, no, that's how I knew what it was. You know, like, there's people streaming in 4K over there. There's an idiot watching Obi-Wan up there in 1080p, and I'm sitting here trying to freaking go on Twitter. It doesn't load. I'm like, and I paid for this. I'm like, oh, that's great. Great. Yeah, that guy gave me COVID, too. What a dick. Screw you, American Airlines. Hey, kid, stop all the doubt that. You're an angry man, EJ. I'm out, man. Wait, what? No one was watching in 4K or 1080p. Alright, so what if they weren't, Psychonaut? It may have been a little bit of hyperbole on my part. So what if they weren't? That means they were watching in 720? And I still couldn't get an internet connection? Alright, sure. I'll tell the story that way. Much better. Anyway, let's jump into the next bit of space news. SpaceX has released a document explaining how they use Starlink to improve Falcon 9 landing video. Oh yeah, okay. They have that picture on there, and that's another thing that they showed. That's cool, man. The 2 fairing recovery ships with a drone ship in formation with a Falcon 9 on it. That's sick, man. I haven't seen Obi-Wan yet. Is it pretty good? Yeah, it's alright. Yeah, and Octograbber holding it. See last if possible. What's up, Andrew? Royal Caribbean has been testing out Starlink dishes on their fleet of ships. Neat. Starlink for boats is one-time hardware cost of $10,000 for 2 high-speed terminals, then $5,000 a month? Ew. Gross. So one of them is Doug. What's the other one? Bob. Have they ever caught a fairing, or has it just been recovery? I know they tried. They abandoned trying to catch the fairings, dude. They just waterproofed the fairings. That was the solution. Trying to catch it on the net was such a pain in the butt. It's much easier. It proved to be much easier just making the fairing watertight, waterizing it, and then just having it land in the water. And then those two boats that you just saw have a big crane on the back that just has a net, and they run the net underneath the fairing, and they just pick it up and put it on deck. Much easier. Marine hardware costs. Ooh, let's see. Let's see the comparisons. Let's see if it sucks as much as I think it does. Yeah, it proved to be more tough than what it was worth. Inmarsat, Fleet Broadband, 14. Inmarsat, Fleet Broadband. KU Band Mini VSAT. KU Band Mini VSAT, USAT. C-Band VSAT. C-Tels 9707. Damn, dude. Some of this stuff gets wicked expensive. Look at the speeds. Oh. RZ, I have to go to bed. Thank you for the very entertaining stream. Hey, no problem, dude. Jeez, okay. Wow. Man, I acted, you ain't kidding, dude. Damn. That's crazy. Starlink is 350 megabytes per second. Yeah, it's pretty cool. New glider tech is GOAT. That's okay. Most of the marine internet was used for transmission and sat phone call and weather updates. It's old tech. Yeah, clearly. Let's see. I'm looking around. I think we can check the Starlink video, guys. There's really not much else. We covered a good deal of it, and the constellation stuff was pretty good too. I always like talking about that. It's always a good time. Let's take a look and see what we got going on down in Starlink there. Or Starbase, not Starlink. Too many things begin with star. Here, let's take a look. This is the video from yesterday. Let's see what we got. This video is coming from our buddies over at NASA Spaceflight. Mary and Nick took this footage along with the NSF robots. Let's see what's up. So this is when they moved Ship 24 out there yesterday. Still no pre-burner test for Booster 7, so no static fire until that happens. Yep. Oh. Lift, baby, lift. Ah, oh, that's cool. Dude, I still can't stand the paint. I hate the paint over the tiles, dude. It looks so goofy to me. You guys see that? There's the edge of the tiles, and then they just painted over the edge of the tiles to make it look like it's nice and, you know, I'm like, dude, I get it. It's just to make it look a little bit nicer, but it looks so goofy to me. They didn't paint over the tiles. They painted around the tile. Oh, okay. Because you can tell the difference. Black tiles, black paint. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. They didn't get any ounce of paint on any of the tiles. Thanks, Creeper. Thanks. I appreciate the clarification. Dude, I do like the naming. Yeah, the naming's sick. With the X on there in the S24, that looks cool. I'm in on that. There's the hold downs. Cool. It's pretty shuttle-like with the placement of S24. I like it, Boxy. I think it's cool. I can't wait till they give these things names and stuff. That'll be so awesome. Like I said, dudes, I love what SpaceX is doing. SpaceX should just keep going full bore, man. And if NASA ain't gonna do the same, that ain't SpaceX's problem. You know what I'm saying? I thought the raw hex tile looked cool, Buck. I think the hex tile looks better than this. From a distance, though, I suppose it doesn't look too bad. Good from afar, I guess. I still think names should be reserved for crew only. All right. Yeah, I suppose. I'm still wondering, what's the flight deck of Starship going to look like? Is this thing going to look like a space shuttle, or like there's got to be a flight deck? I think it might end up looking like Dragon, but still, like, are there going to be like is there going to be like a joystick to fly the thing, like, or is it? I mean, it's probably going to be all automated, but I don't know. With people on board, wouldn't you want manual overrides? I mean, Dragon has manual overrides. You can fly it manually. You know, like I'm wondering, like, is it gonna have a flight deck like the shuttle? What the heck is that gonna look like? That's gonna be cool. Yeah, make it look Rossi-esque. That'd be true. It's the Tachi, first of all, but yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I agree. No, it's not legitimate salvage. You know what they call that? They call it stealing. Don't listen to that guy. He was a dick. How would you manually land it? Manual belly flop would be nice. Dude, it could be done with the proper assists. I mean, it's not like the shuttle was like the joystick on the shuttle. It's not like that was pulling a bunch of strings to the control surfaces. You know what I'm saying? It's fly-by-wire. A fly-by-wire system interpolating human input. I mean, you could land. I mean, I don't think you'd be able to catch Starship. I don't think someone could manually fly a catch. That would be legendary if you could, but I don't think that's the thing. Okay, now I want to become an astronaut solely to manually flip a Starship. Young could have done a manual landing, no problem. I agree. We covered that yesterday, Josh. Pretty interesting news. That kind of tells me that Virgin Galactic is back on their feet from violating the TFR, amongst other things. I believe Johnny Kim could do it. Yeah, he probably could. Young could do a manual catch. It's a little bit harder than landing the shuttle on a runway, but then again, landing the shuttle on the runway was pretty difficult as well. I saw Top Gun 2 and the urge to grow a mustache has intensified. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, Apocalypse, this is definitely going to be a little bit of a wild ride, huh? Wouldn't that be ridiculous, though? To, like, be sitting on Starship and look out the window and see the ground do this and then... like... dude. Oh, man. I'd do it. That would be ridiculous. That would be like, well, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, I still get pretty excited when the plane lands, dudes, you know? What's that soft tube connected to Booster 7? Let me take a look. That's an HVAC tube. Either that or it's a trash chute. Could be one or the other. So when could they start testing Starship again? They gotta get a launch license, Goblin in, but that won't take as long as the programmatic assessment. They're approved to launch from out of here. They just gotta get the license for it. It'll take some time, but I'd say they're targeting the end of this month, early August, something like that. I still think it's going to be July. I think we're a couple weeks away. We got to see some static fires from this stuff first. But when we do, yeah, that's a good sign. But even the fact that the booster and Starship are in position to do static fires shows that we're pretty close. They wouldn't be static firing the boosters if they weren't going to intend to fly them sooner rather than later, right? Every time a Falcon 9 static fires, that means a launch is imminent. So, the booster and Ship 24 are in position to do static fires. They just have to do it. Cool, because I've been waiting. Yeah, we all have, man. We all have. See, actually, Goblin in, let's back it up a little bit. I want to show you something. Watch over there on the left side of your screen. Right before they cut the camera. What's coming up the road? See the truck over there? What's coming up the road? Another truck carrying propellants. Or some type of commodity. That could be LNG, it could be methane, it could be oxygen. Who knows? But you have a truck that's blatantly carrying fuel oxidizer or some ground pneumatic system for the main pads coming down the road. We've seen nothing but... Dude, in every one of these Starship videos, we always see a propellant truck coming down the road, meaning that SpaceX is filling up the orbital launch pad with propellants. Why would they do that if they didn't intend on using those propellants sooner rather than later, right? See what I mean? Propane and propane accessories. Oh. Nice, Boxy. Yeah, those are some thick boy beams on the telehandler right there. Truck. Furred. Man, there's a lot of them too. I wonder what those are for. Booster 4. They scrapped Booster 5 the other day. Yeah. The launch readiness picture. Oh, interesting. Man, Booster 5 didn't do anything. It doesn't matter. Ah, they put corrugated steel up there. Fellas, even after all this time, I still can't figure out what the frick they're doing up there. Booster 4 and Ship 20 still exist. There's Ship 20 right there. Yeah, Booster 5 is getting ski-wrapped. That's the bar, isn't it? No, that's on the other one. That area up there at the top is like 2 stories tall. Look at it compared to the scaffolding. 2 to 3 stories. I think that they're going to put like mission control or a launch control center or something on top of this. I think that's what's going on, but I could be wrong. Even higher bar. Trademark. Yeah, sure. It would be pretty sick, dude. I'm not going to lie. Pressurization trailer at the Rocket Garden. Yes. All this stuff just sitting out here. So what's out here? They have SN20, SN21/22, SN15, and Booster 4. They scrapped 16. They scrapped Booster 5. Wasn't Booster 6 out here, too? They scrapped that one as well. Hey, Craigie. Whoa, look at that thing. Booster thrust assembly flipped. Oh, God, the COVID's acting up. I can't stop coughing. I'm trying to hold it in. Okay. That is one-piece billet, dude. Unbelievable. It's crazy. See this plate on the bottom? One piece, machined one piece on a giant 5-axis mill. That's unbelievable. I still can't believe that piece. And then it has all this other stuff welded to it. Thrust puck. Yeah, it's basically the engine attachment point Apocalypsis. Look at it. See, you can tell it's all billet from the lines there. It looks like a Zen garden. It's from where the cutting head just went zzz and milled that all out. See? Oh, that's freaking cool, man. Each one of these plates is a Raptor mount. See? Methane oxidizer. Methane oxidizer. I don't know why some of them have holes and some of them don't. And we still really couldn't figure out what these two things are. SpaceX showed a picture of Super Heavy the other day, and there were 2 ports right here that are between the inner 3 Raptor engines. We couldn't figure out what the heck they were for. Star Factory construction. What size CNC do you need for this? 20-foot 5-axis mill, I think, is what it's called. I'd have to ask my dad, someone. He would know. He's a machinist. Starship is much more interesting than anything else happening in space. Yeah, it's pretty damn cool, isn't it? Who farted? Oh, Booster 7 did. Hey, Matt, thanks for the raid, dude. What's going on, buddy? James Webb picks coming in a week. Yep. Those are the that's the RCS tank vents for Super Heavy right there. That's what they're venting out. Matt, thanks for the raid. 88-month resub. Howdy. Hope you had a good birthday. It was all right, dude. It wasn't bad. You know, I had COVID. It's great. No, it was fine, man. It's all right. I still say Artemis is more exciting due to it being a moon station in the most funky orbit ever and all that hardware getting there. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Oh my gosh, I missed the Back to the Future meme. Yes. They're going to unveil the targets for James Webb tomorrow. Pics later. Cool. Look, they're building another one. This is really getting out of hand. Now there are 8 of them. I meant to make it with the 88-month resub. Oh, what did I tell you? 88-month memes. I got you. Will you go see an IRL Starship launch, and if so, an IRL stream? Yeah, I would think that would be a good thing to do. I'm not sure if I'm going to be there for the first one, Goblin Inn, because I'm moving soon, but we'll see. See how it pans out, okay? If I have to drive down there, we have to drive down there. That's the way it goes. Anywho, sorry to raid and run. The girlfriend just came over, so I'll be hitting the lurk. All right, buddy. See ya. Thanks for the raid, man. See, Booster 8 wants you to go. You see, look at its face. That'd be just cool for stream content. Yeah, you're not getting any argument from me, Goblinin. I know a couple of people down in Boca Chica, too. You know, that run the stream setups. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The new nose cones. Yep. Dude, this always makes me happy. The control surface with the tiles wrapped around it and stuff. It reminds me of the space shuttle. Makes me happy. What do you think about the E-Dome? I think whatever test they ran on at Valkyrie worked, and I think the E-Dome would probably be a lighter and cheaper way to build them. I wouldn't be surprised if starships in the future have that. It's a much simpler, much more simplified way of making those things. You know, if you guys who know some guys, yep. Indeed. Let's see if there's anything else. That was the Ship 24 rolling to the pad. I don't think there really is much more space news, dudes. Yeah, I don't think we have much more. The E-Dome, it was a it's a they made the tank like they made the nose cone Sawyer, where they took a bunch of strips of steel and then just made it into a hemispherical shape, like how they make the nose cones on the newer versions of Starship. Instead of just a bunch of panels that are kind of, you know, panel, they take long strips of steel and make the entire nose cone shape and just weld them together. Kind of like, think like a teepee, right? The E-Domes are made like that, but in a hemisphere shape instead of, you know, like, they're too pointy. It's not pointy enough. It's quiet because we are missing the Russian space news. Who? Artemis relies on SLS as a crutch. Starship would be way better because of its flight rate. Oh yeah, because it launches a lot, doesn't it? I understand what you're trying to say, Melee. Yeah, but see, I don't think that's necessarily a good way to look at it. I think, well, you're not wrong in saying that Starship could potentially launch more. The same argument could be made. Oh, well, if they launch SLS more, it's much more sustainable than Starship. If they launch it more than Starship, don't you think? You know, the truth is that it doesn't matter if your rocket's expendable or reusable. You launch it a lot, it's going to be more sustainable. Reusability does favor long-term sustainability because it favors a higher flight rate because you can reuse your spacecraft. However, you can run a perfectly oh man, I'm running out of steam. You can run a perfectly healthy and long-term space program with an expendable launch vehicle. Once again, Apollo is the case study for that, and it worked pretty damn well. Pretty good bang for your buck, if I do say so myself. But I do understand what you're saying. It'd be nice to get that core stage back, though. Wouldn't that be cool, seeing that thing shoot through the atmosphere? That'd be pretty sweet. But I do understand the gist of what you're saying. There's no doubt that SpaceX can do it quick, you know? all that spray-on foam insulation would burn off. Well, tiles make great insulators. Just saying. Starship is a pretty good example for that. You don't see any frost accumulating on the outside of those tiles when they fuel the Starship up, huh? Supersonic retro propulsion on SLS? Yeah, you'd take like a freaking 50-ton payload capacity hit doing that. And that's even if you could restart the RS-25s. RS-25s, to speak in general terms, guys, the starter motor for the shuttle engines is ground side. Just like it is for Super Heavy. Well, for the outer ring of engines on Super Heavy, I should say. Where did you get your t-shirt? Twitch gave this to me a long time ago. It's an old Twitch shirt, dude. Look at it. It's got the old logo and it says Go Turbo on it, baby. Who remembers Turbo? Good times, right? I don't even know if they sell just a Twitch green or Twitch gray. Yeah, it's gray. Shirt like this anymore. Is it the max Q load bigger than the pressure? Is it the max Q load bigger than the pressure from reentry? Just asking for a friend. No, reentry is way higher pressure. Apocalypsis. On reentry, the dynamic pressure gets high enough to rip air apart. It's much more on reentry. That's why you need a thermal protection system on the way down and not the way up. The more you know. Dun dun dun. Why don't we just take a plane that can land and put a rocket on the back? Yeah. That would be a good idea, wouldn't it? It's almost like you could have nice routine access to space and like build space stations and stuff. And you don't need to worry about building a big catch tower or anything because it could just land on a runway. They should do that. Actually, I saw somebody say it in chat. Commercial shuttle program when? Can you imagine if somebody like Elon Musk got his hands on the shuttle program? I can't decide whether that would be a good thing or a bad thing. I think that would be a good thing. He would eliminate so much redundancy in that program. That thing would get running real good. Wasn't there a group proposing just that? I proposed that short line, you know, and how, you know, I said I thought that would be a good idea. How's that gonna get funded? Well, mostly on my hopes and dreams. So that's not happening. He'd scrap it and make Starship. On the condition that he doesn't scrap it and use Falcon. Yeah, obviously, right? Yeah. No. Oh, jeez. Wouldn't SpaceX be worried about having different thermal properties on each side of Starship because one side being insulated better? Well, Soltred, the stainless steel on the leeward side actually gets stronger when it's colder. Believe it or not. The stainless steel basically equalizes out that heating problem, dude. What's the physics of it? Long story short, the heat gets dispersed around stainless steel more evenly than it does with other metals. If I'm remembering that correctly, I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've studied material properties and whatnot. It's a good question, though. But the tiles should basically keep the heating even. But it will get colder on the back side. Not by much, though. But the type of stainless that they're using does get stronger when it gets cold, interestingly enough. If I could do it in Kerbal, I could do it in real life, right? Yeah. It has a high melting point and conducts heat very well, so it disperses it over a larger area. That's the right way to say it. Any solar panels that we know on Starship? No. Wouldn't it be funny, Apocalypsis, if Elon took some of the Tesla solar tiles, the solar roof tiles, and just shingled the top of Starship? I think that would be too heavy. It'd be funny to see, though. Wait, so you're saying I can speed up time? Yeah, I just need to buy a DeLorean. Shingle all the way, at least the back, yeah, right? Didn't they use that on Dragon 1? I have no idea, dude. I'll leave it up to CERN. Yeah. Fellas, starting to cough up a storm, guys. I've been going basically since 9 this morning. I don't really have much more space news for you, and I hate admitting this, but freaking COVID's being a pain in the butt. I run out of breath still, which really sucks, but I see a capstone live stream of the orbited moon. Is that real? I'm not sure. That'd be a great advertisement, like Starlink. Can survive hail, snow, high winds, even re-entry heating. Yeah, right? That'd be pretty cool. Are those solar panels on top of the lunar version? Yeah, from the renders that we've seen. Yep. So, fellas, because I've been going since basically 9 this morning from the Starlink launch, I might take another break and or just come back tomorrow, dude, because I've been going. I'm trying not to push it with this freaking COVID because I still run out of breath and I start coughing all over the place, even though I feel fine. It's really, really annoying, especially because I need to sit here and talk for long periods of time. Let's see. Yeah. It's only 6 o'clock. Use text to speech. Yeah, fellas, I'm probably... I'm going to take a break for a little while. If I don't see you a little bit later tonight, I can... I'll just come back tomorrow for Flight Sim. But once again, I freaking COVID, man. I run out of breath and I start coughing all over the place. It's really, really...